And we had the community consensus. We had a task force that was put together. We had River Commission, Park Board, local service groups that were involved with it. We did the public meetings, so on and so forth, came up with a list of recommendations. My thinking was when we budgeted this in 2016, we have $200,000 in the budget for design and engineering work for both park areas. And as I thought about it, to me it made sense that we, truthfully, this is a legacy project, the Two Rivers, especially the Two Rivers Shoreline. That was a park that was designed originally, I believe, back in 1978, something like that. And they started at the highway, moved towards the river, and ran out of money. The report that Gary Lacey gave us was actually consistent with that design work. What we found is a couple things that jumped out is, one, we thought that working with the Grand Avenue Bridge project that we would be able to access a lot of the boulders and things like that that they were using for the causeway. That's not really appropriate if you look at what they're using and what our intended purposes would be. I think we need to do a softer finish on.
You're basically talking weathered boulders as opposed to mined boulders. Is that the gist of?
Yeah, well, and softer edges on it, Mike. Just because you have to look at it as people are going to be climbing around on these kinds of things. And now the reality is where we're at right now is the council accepted the Gary Lacey plan, and we think we have a better idea. And my suggestion was that we do a professional services contract not to exceed $25,000 for additional design work and engineering. We can do that in 2016. There's a good chance that based on what we're looking at with project costs already, that we could do this design work and we could actually do the physical restoration work at Veltus this year within that $200,000. Some of this is timing is of the essence, though.
Why would you move to Veltus before Two Rivers?
That was actually the recommendation that came out in 2014 because of the magnitude of the project is relatively small. Dollar-wise, it was like $150,000 to $175,000, and then you would move on to the larger project. Just a lot of erosion at Veltus.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the timing on that would be, we really look at the fall when obviously our park usage has dropped pretty significantly, so we would be looking at like October, November to do the work at Veltus. And then, so then Veltus is done, and it's done well, and it's done right. And that hopefully just gives more credibility and confidence to the community to address the much larger project, which is going to be Two Rivers, and the expectation there is that I believe the budget that was originally set up was about $1.5 million, something like that. And that's from the pedestrian bridge to Devereaux and includes the boat launch.
There's some things at Two Rivers that I think just have to get done immediately. Two Rivers has much more usage than Veltus does by an international market. It certainly is a reflection on our community by the tens of thousands, if not 100,000 people that come down that river. And the old chunks of concrete would be, there's a lot of them there that are just ripe for picking, Get a hoe down there, spend a day, load some of that stuff up and get it out of there. I know we can't do the whole project down there, but we can certainly spend a day or two. We've already got a contractor in Two Rivers Park with that equipment there.
Is there permitting that would need to be done to do that?
Yeah, to do any work in the river, you would have to get different kinds of permits with the Corps of Engineers. I mean, what Steve is talking about is a fairly, in my experience, it's a fairly, I don't want to say simple permit, but it's not like we're going to go out and.
We don't have to jump through a million.
No, it's like
I'm talking about picking up this piece
Picking
of
up that
concrete
concrete.
and getting it out
So,
off the river.
but is there any of that concrete that goes down into the river, I guess?
No.
Okay, because it,
Probably depends on what time of year.
yeah, it probably does, it'd be kind of like, you can get a permit to build a pipeline across the river under the flow line of the river, a lot easier than you can say, I'm gonna put a bridge pier in the middle of the river, or I'm gonna, whatever, do, change the river channel or do something like that, so,
Yeah, I'm not looking to excavate or dig stuff, but, I just think
You
we
just
ought
want
to.
to pull those chunks of concrete out, I get that.
That's what's primarily that can be done from the park itself down
Yeah.
the bank
Exactly.
with the reach of a pretty good sized tractor.
And then, Andrew McGregor and I stood and walked that site, I'm gonna say 3 years ago, and talked about the simple things that could be done to help facilitate turning trailers around. There's one tree in the way, and tear down a curb, and hell, we thought it was done. And then we got shut down. It was just simple things that could be done to greatly enhance that for recreational boaters and to help alleviate the conflicts between the recreational and the professional boaters down there. And why we can't get that done sooner than later, I don't know, even though it's kind of a, it's a short-term thing. But otherwise, if we sit around and wait on this $1.5 million, is it 5 years out? When's that ever going to happen? And we have immediate needs that need immediate answers down there that I think would be simple to do at this point in time. It's, I don't know how many times you've backed a trailer down there, Tom, but it's, it is difficult for most people.
Yeah, and that was part of the issue, is what we heard from the river industry folks is, it's not those folks. It's the weekend warriors that are,
Right.
that are problematic, and on a number of levels. In addition, we have different users now than we did even 10 years ago. We see it at the whitewater activity area, and we see it at the boat ramps as well. Just the different kinds of folks that are out there. So the plan addresses those, going all the way to the idea of people that want to bathe in there. And I'm not talking about the outfall, but people that want to go in the water and have water play for their families or for pets and/or pets. Tie-ups along the shoreline. These are all items that are addressed. Steve, you're exactly right about, are we going to wait 5 years? Man, I sure hope not. I think the point in bringing this to the council when we did in 2014, and Leo, I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here. They saw this progression of, yep, this wasn't going to take place until 2017. Well, okay, do we have the money, or do we move ahead with this and then bring this back to the community and say there's one way that this happens, and that's community involvement and community engagement, because we just don't have all this money available to us. Yes, there's the Mineral Lease District grant. Yes, there's GoCo funds, and I think we would get support for that. We can also leverage funds that we will be getting, we hopefully are going to be getting from the Hot Springs Pool as part of their site restoration. All those things benefit us. We just have to be comfortable with what's being talked about.
I'll get off my soapbox, but there's some Band-Aids we need to put on this, and we need to do it right now. As easy as a one-way sign going the wrong way around that island, because that's the only way to back a
That's the
boat
better
in.
way to
And
do
then
it.
you have people, in this head-on situation and fighting, and you see,
There's a couple other things that
Bad.
we're doing this spring, we're putting that whole center section of the parking lot is going to be for vehicles with trailers only, and the single cars parking off to the side. Because we've been talking to the river industry this winter about, okay, how do we handle these
I
things?
thought it's already that way.
Okay. I'd like to line out some choices. The first is, I didn't know whether you wanted to hear from anybody else present this morning. If you would like a follow-up work session, this is what the next 2 weeks look like. You have a 6 o'clock start On May 19th, you're already scheduled to hear a return on the compensation study, fire, emergency, and parks and school impact fees discussion, and those are, and then the social media that we can cover pretty quickly in the morning. On June 2nd, you have a 7 o'clock start, and you're scheduled to hear about a spring cleanup report in the evening. So if you wanted to, it's your time and your schedule, so those are the places that you could put it.
I didn't mean to totally dominate this entire work session of yours. I thought other people would have comments here.
I guess to the point of when we might continue this, I can generally start a council meeting at 5 if that works for everyone else, so we could schedule it for 5 p.m. on the 19th. Did I hear that correctly, that we are planning on starting at 6?
You're starting at 6, but you're already hearing, I think, at 5, fire, emergency, and parks and school impact
okay, I did
fees.
not hear that.
June, the first meeting in June.
Yeah, first
Yeah.
meeting in June then.
Okay, and so, and then you would start that at 5 o'clock for this issue.
Okay. And I guess I'd like just a clarification. Did I hear you say, Tom, that we have the Lacey plan, but that you all feel that you have a better plan? Is that what I heard? Okay. And is that what Mr. Moffett is going to present? Is that?
No, actually, no, because I think that, I think Dean's comments would come as a, just as a private citizen. I don't want him presenting as a vendor of ours, because he's not. We don't have a contract with him yet.
So how do we see these better plans or these better ideas? I mean, is my question. I mean, to me, that's the important thing we got to decide, is if we want to proceed with the better idea. We have an idea what this idea is, so we got to understand what the alternate idea is.
If you want to see something like a conceptual, I think I can get to you pretty easily. There was a proposal that was presented that I forwarded to Drew, and I think he forwarded it to you folks, I'm not sure, with the additional breakdown.
Can
for
you
the
just
professional search.
characterize what the difference is? I mean, I basically see, taking Two Rivers as the example, improvements to the boat ramp, a couple of small jetties or whatever you want to call them that create some, some eddies behind them with beaches, and then a trail with a bank improvement. That's the current plan? How does the proposed plan differ? Is it just a rearrangement of those features?
Well, if you don't mind, Dean, he and I have talked about this a number of times. He can probably give it to you better from a landscape architect standpoint than I
And
can.
didn't we pay for this plan?
We paid for the Lacey.
We paid for the Gary.
Or
paid for
we
the
just
Gary
now
Lacey.
we're buying plans and throwing them away and?
No, I don't think so. The reality was the Gary Lacey plan was, as much as anything, that was getting the public comment. What all does the public want? This part is not going to include a lot of public meetings. This is going to be, no, we want to come back with the final design, the preliminary engineering, and be able to say, okay, now how do we want to have this constructed? What's the next step in that process?
I mean, Dean, if you want to come up and talk to us, I'm happy to have you do that.
I can do it in 2 minutes. I'd like to pass this around.
We've heard that before.
It's like the old name that hymn.
Steve, you're right on what you just said. And that's where Tom and I have been talking. That's where I've been planning. The Lacey plan is a hard plan. It is a constructive plan that you would see in Cherry Creek. Upon studying it, taking everything from the public input and making it better is what I've been working on. The first is what you just said, cleanup. No permit needed to do some basic cleanup if we don't go in the water. This project has been my passion for 37 years. I did the original planning that led to the basic chemical property being purchased, getting it all the way through the RC&D funding for it. And we did run out of money. We ran out of dynamite too. And that's why you see the mounds around the amphitheater. They're actually covered concrete. Tom mentioned the soft approach. It is a beautification of the shoreline and restoration where possible. Riparian areas, working on the island that CDOT took out, restoring part of it, making a soft, quiet backwater.
Dean, where's the island you were referring to? Where was it?
Well, it's where you grew up.
Yeah, right there. Downstream
It's
of
right
the
in
ramp.
that picture.
Oh, it's
It's a
actually
bar.
still there.
It's
I
a
mean,
gravel bar, but
Yeah.
CDOT took, and it wasn't even CDOT, it was the Department of Highways. They took the top off of it for the abutment for the Devereaux Bridge.
I see.
And what I'm proposing is restoring that top.
Or revegetating it, in other words.
Yes, it
Yeah.
would not be above a 100-year flood. It would flood out to a certain degree. But it creates a soft backwater for our recreation people. Also widening the boat ramp to three lanes and correcting its circulation.
Yeah.
But we're all on the same track. And what Tom has proposed is working right now with certain limits, starting with some basic work at Veltus, some cleanup, as Steve has said, and then getting ready for a 2017 project. GOCO just funded 12 water-related projects in the state of Colorado. And they're in tune, and mineral release as well. I don't see any problem in funding the majority of the work, but keep it soft versus Cherry Creek.
So
Park.
you're essentially not proposing a constructed trail along the bank, is that
Correct.
part of the change?
Yeah, instead of it, see, it's a constructed trail all the way along. But there can be 3 accesses to the water very easily. This is an old plan, it's 37 years old, but it has the elements. Because of the outfall pipe, I don't think a beach right there is appropriate. Maybe a quiet water, but not a place where people would go. Instead, I think I would propose it being down at the island and get people down in that part of the park. I can talk. There's my summary, but we can do some stuff right now, and we can plan for 2017. But it means moving ahead right away.
Let me line it out then. I think that gives you the gist. Unless you're prepared to give direction right now, a shoreline restoration work session at 5 p.m. on the 2nd for an hour, and then spring cleanup at 6 on that night, and then you have 2 morning work sessions 2 weeks from now on social media and compensation, and then the evening work session is on fire. So to
Fire
cut through that on fire, emergency, and parks and school impact fees.
impact fees, got it.
Okay, so to cut through this, I think the choices are to give direction now to proceed and not have a work session, give direction now to proceed and have a work session, don't proceed now and have the work session.
I have a question, and this is more about, I guess, a procedural question rather than, why are we looking at a not to exceed 25,000? Is that to get it under the RFP threshold?
Yeah. Yeah. Again, this is a legacy project. In my opinion, this is a legacy project. I'm also aware of what the costs are bringing people in from outside our area. Maybe my perspective is, and it's not jaded, and I look at it, Dean is down there every day. This is a project that he has been involved with for 37 years that hasn't been completed. What better resource, what better opportunity do we have than taking advantage of his skills? And I know that he knows that I expect him to do the work at a discount. And I expect any of the engineers he used, he's gonna get them for a discount, because they have buy-in, they have ownership, because this is a park that they've worked on for years. I really wasn't trying to skirt anything, Kathy. I thought about it, but I think the best bang for the buck is looking at it this way. And doing a professional services contract on this part of the project.
I guess, my 2 cents worth is that I'd rather we get the input of Matt and Todd on this issue before we try to proceed with spending any money in any direction, so we can get a full consensus of council. My personal inclination is that I would like to wait to spend any design money until we have an idea as to which direction we want to go. I don't disagree with Steve's comments that we probably have some immediate needs that we need to address that are probably somewhat independent of what we do with this shoreline. We got to redo some things on the boat ramp. We got to address some of the parking issues, et cetera. Even with this group, I'd be less comfortable proceeding forward with a plan to move forward on a design on those things without the input of the other council members. But I guess, I'm more inclined to pursue that immediately than I am just the whole project at this point. I want to understand more about the project get the input of council. And quite frankly, I do think we need to get the input of the community at large. I think that there was a large element of the community that was at least, there was an attempt made to try to solicit their comments on that Lacey plan. And I think it was fairly well received. And so if we're going in a different direction, I think we owe it to the people to give them an opportunity to speak out. So that's my thoughts.
And I think we owe it to the people to try to get something done immediately and not wait 5 years to get the big picture done. It would be really easy and we should talk about this in the work section, but even to improve that boat ramp before this summer traffic hits it. It doesn't have to be concrete, it's the only ramp in the valley that's concrete right now. I put in there's a 3 wide boat ramp at Carbondale. It's dirt. We put in there all the time.
And it's asphalt, right?
No, it's dirt.
Oh, it is dirt?
Yeah.
Okay.
And West Bank is
Dude,
dirt.
mud.
Yeah, that's good.
I guess one question I would have for you, if you don't mind, then if we're going to do it, and we can do a few of these things this spring, and there's no doubt, but we didn't have them budgeted, so, and I don't even know, Drew, if this is okay for us to do that. We have the money budgeted for for design and engineering. Can we take $5,000 or $10,000 out of that to get some of this other stuff addressed? I mean, bringing a track hole in or whatever, that's going to cost some bucks.
It's $145 an hour,
Yeah.
plus a dump truck.
Well, to state the obvious, you can spend budgeted funds, and to point out recent council willingness to appropriate for necessary unbudgeted items, because they are urgent. These abnormal times, you got a lot of things that you have to make decisions now to get things done, and you're doing that. So I don't see how waiting 2 weeks to get all of council and the public and the River Commission here talking about this at the same time on June 2nd hurts anything.
Am I incorrect? We've got really 2 issues. We've got the immediate issues, get the boat ramp fixed, get the access fixed, get the junk out of there. That's the more immediate issue. The longer term issue is, what are we doing with the rest of that shoreline, and what's the grand plan, if you
Right.
will?
One work session, not 2. should take-
Right, no,
Right.
no, but I guess my question is then, and I do appreciate the fact that this is Dean's, legacy and stuff. I'm a little uncomfortable with a project of this scope without going out to an RFP, quite honestly. It is such a, the long-term piece of this is such a critical piece to how we interact with our rivers. And we've been told time and time again, that we need to, we need to make it, our access to our rivers better. We need to make it, give people, and I think probably Dean's plan includes all of those things. But I guess I would like to see, I'd like a full process rather than to try and shortcut that. So that's just my 2 cents.
When you say full process, so what would you be looking at?
Well, I
Going
guess-
back and doing the public meetings and all those?
No, my interpretation of what you said is, you take the existing conceptual design plan that is built on public input and go out into the market, RFP, using an RFP to do so, to come back with sort of a design build concept.
Right.
And when you set up this morning's work session, when you were talking about it last time, one of the factors was, can we find somebody who has river development experience if you cast the net out wider? And with all due respect, somebody else with river design experience, because you have that, and you have,
Sure.
and if that is sort of where this is headed, then you know the general timeline for RFPs.
My take on that is you can probably find 4 people with lots of experience in river design, but you're not going to find any of those 4 people with the sensitivity necessary to provide the very best product in this particular situation. That's, I think, I'm not defending anybody, but I'm just saying, I know how much time and effort Dean has spent, and I really believe he could put together a team that would get this to an absolute gem of a park in very little time, because he's lived it, and that sensitivity to this community is something you can't hire. And so that's just my piece of it.
Yeah, and remember, we're talking design.
I know.
Not construction. That's,
Why though? Why are we not talking construction? You've got effectively a comprehensive plan for these 2 shorelines built on public input. And all these things are coming together now. This is being considered as part of the confluence development. All of that is, this year, next year, and the year after, the majority of it. So why would I don't want to talk about more what it might look like without knowing what it's going to cost and how long it will take to build it and all that stuff. I probably hate plans more than you guys do.
And I would reiterate also my comment that, it sounds like, if we were to go with this $25,000 contract, we're departing from the plan that was reviewed by the community and received approval from the council. And I don't think we can depart from that appropriately just by us saying, yeah, I like this plan better than that plan or whatever. I think we need to, if we're going to depart from that, we need to have a process by which we give people the opportunity to comment on it. And I guess we've been focusing all of our discussion on 2 rivers. You mentioned you would perhaps like to see work done at Veltus as far as the actual construction work this summer with our monthly budget. This year, I should say.
right.
What does that look like, and how does that differ from the Lacey plan for Veltus, I guess? Do we have any concept on that, as to how that differs there, or is the same, or doesn't,
Dean?
or Dean?
It doesn't differ.
No.
Basically erosion control.
Yeah.
Veltus is eating away, and it's a very simple job. Also taking one section of railing out,
I'm sorry?
taking one section of railing out at the ADA access to allow for better in and out for those who get in and out of Veltus.
Veltus is the
But
easy
it's
part.
erosion control, it's not.
Yeah.
Not just dumping, and it's not just dumping stones in there, more gold.
And I know that specifically is going to require permitting with the Army Corps, who would you be proposing to hire to do that permitting, or would you be doing that yourself?
It would be a local engineering company.
And I'll just say one more thing about this, and it's really quick. I really think that we need to visit this with the full River Commission present and the full council present, because I think the River Commission brought this to us. They certainly have a lot of expertise, they've done a lot of work on this, and I want to hear what they have to say and why they think this is a project we ought to switch gears on. That's going to mean a lot to me, and I'm not in a position right now to make any judgment without that kind of information.
I agree.
And I didn't mean to be flippant with respect to plans. It's just born out of frustration and wanting to see things actually completed.
Yeah.
And not just talked about or designed. I recognize the importance of plans, of course.
Agreed.
And the only other, Stephen, is the River Commission has seen more, I think, more significant turnover than the city council has since 2013 or 2014. So
Yeah.
some of this is going to be new to some of those folks as well. If you
Okay,
remember-
well, I guess I'm going to ask for some serious effort then to make sure that the River Commission is present, particularly with this on a June 2nd date at 5 p.m. And if it's easier for them, let's just swap these. Let's make it 6 p.m. for that. Spring cleanup can come first. To have them here, if council's going to invite them and all, and I know they're volunteers, but it would really be appreciated if they could be here.
Well,
think
my
it'd be
point is,
more-
we either rely on their opinion or we don't. And one of the reasons we have boards and commissions is because it gives us a broader view in the community, and it gives us the ability to have lots of different points of view brought to bear on an issue.
And is Parks and Rec, do we include Parks and Rec in
Yeah.
this? I mean,
I would, because they were members of the task force, Park and Rec, River Commission.
we are talking park.
Yeah, I guess. I think that, I know you guys love this room and this venue, but I think this meeting would be better held at the shelter right there at the ramp, so that everybody has a clear understanding of what that surrounding it. Should be a nice day on June 2nd. And that's
Keep
an
in mind,
easy
that's the
walk
last day of
across
school,
to
too.
get over here. Huh?
So keep in mind, that's the last day of school,
I would
and
encourage individual visits. I think you've got to have order to the meeting. If you want to get more people here at 6 and start your thing on time at 7.
Okay.
And I guess I would just say, to go back to your critical issues that I think need to happen, I don't disagree at all with you. I think that, in my opinion, I would hope that we could identify those things that we can all agree that need to be done right now or yesterday, and figure out a plan to move forward on how to get those things done, and then kind of on the bigger picture, figure out how to move forward on those items. That would be my preference.
I think.
I would just like to, I see this in a little bit of a dual track. I see one track being, the Steve Davis list of critical items, addressing the boat ramp, access, the boat ramp itself, the parking, the cleanup of concrete on the shore. What else?
Yeah, that's good.
That's pretty much it. And,
Tie-ups.
and so I guess I'd like to
Tie-ups.
see us, get information to, as to how we could proceed with that work
The Two Rivers
quickly.
triage improvements versus the long term.
And
Yeah, and then long-term is, what do we do with either implementing the Lacey plan, modifying it to be another plan, and if so, how do we fund and build that?
I think we ought to walk that. We walked the Bergeny Park, we walked the outfall. I think there's a lot of benefit to that, and I think, before or after this, it'd be better before. You don't have to go.
No, I'll go.
But if we're having this meeting at 5, at 4 o'clock, anybody can show up, we can just get There's nothing better than kind of getting that
All right,
in your mind,
that works then. You want a 4 o'clock walk.
noticed.
At 5 o'clock, you have now spring cleanup, and at 6 o'clock, restoration. All right, it's just a,
What?
Well, I was just thinking, if you're already doing the walk of the 8th Street connection next week with RAFTA, maybe just elongate that process a little bit, walk over it.
Well, that's not a full
Different
council.
people.
Well, I know it's different people, but I was saying council could maybe.
Yeah, that, I mean, 2 of us have to come back and participate in the RAFTA meeting, so,
Oh.
yeah.
we can make that work. We can notice a walking tour of 2 rivers. You want to try to hit Veltus as well?
I would, personally, I mean,
It's a healthy walk.
yeah.
Well, then we ought to start at 3 o'clock. Everybody can fit that.
Maybe we can get segues from Ken Murphy.
Well, that'd take longer.
Do you want to start at 3 o'clock?
We don't want to go to the.
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
Hopefully.
Okay, for as many people as can make it, 3 o'clock walk of 2 rivers in Veltus on June 2nd. You will have a 5 o'clock work session on spring cleanup and a 6 o'clock work session on shoreline restoration.
Dean, can you make that?
Yes.
Thank you very much. I think it's important.
All right. We're good?
Yep.
Adjourned.
Thanks, folks.